Hello everybody, in today's video I figured I would give you an in-depth look at my modern O-scale roster. And when I say modern, I just mean locomotives made pretty much within the last 10 years, not necessarily only modern day diesels that you see running on the railroads. And before I begin, I just want to give a quick disclaimer. The purpose of this is not to show off how many trains that I have. I get a lot of questions, which are my favorite trains, I really like this train, or, so on and so forth. And I haven't really put all of my locomotives in one centralized place or one centralized video. So I just wanted to take some time today and give you guys that information in just one video. So maybe you can give a couple recommendations on some engines I don't feature as much on my channel that you'd like to see running. Without further ado, let's get into the engine that started this all for me. And if it wasn't for this Lionel Long Island H16-44, I probably would have never made a YouTube channel in the first place, circa 2012. It is conventionally controlled, but it's scale. It was my first scale locomotive. I purchased it with my own money. It was the first locomotive I bought with my own money. And I was probably 12, 13 years old at the time. And Lionel made two legacy versions and a non-powered version, and I'd hope to one day get the whole roster. The Long Island Railroad only had 8 of these, so, it would be pretty cool if I could get all 8 and renumber them. And next up is a fan favorite. It is my MTH Rail King SD70 Ace UP4141. Once I saw that MTH was going to do this model after the passing of the late President George H.W. Bush, I knew I needed it, along with the flag car with holding the president's casket, and I have that as well in the collection. I actually visited George H.W. Bush while he was lying in state in the Capitol Rotunda. If you go back and see when Kentucky Governor Matt Bevin walked in, you can actually see me stand right next to him as he walks in. But regardless, I have a personal connection to this locomotive, although I've never seen it. And George H.W. Bush was just a great man and a great president, so make sure to, check out his life history. Next up is one that I've only featured in 1 or 2 of my videos, and that is this MTH Rail King Proto Sounds 2 Major League Baseball National League switcher. I got this for my birthday probably 5 years ago from a local hobby shop that's now out of business. And it was sitting new in the box. It was produced in 2005, and it was sitting on a shelf for almost 10 years. So you can sort of see why the hobby store went out of business. But it's a great little switcher. I need to do some work on it, but it's a great locomotive. Now on to probably my favorite locomotive in the collection. It is my MTH Rail King Long Island Railroad K4. This thing's a beast. It weighs a ton, all die-cast metal, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful locomotive. I've done a few videos on it. Make sure to go check them out. They're great. Next up is also a recently added locomotive, and that would be my MTH Rail King Proto Sound 3 New York and Atlantic MP15. This was part of my MTH panic buying. The New York and Atlantic Railway stuff is made in extremely limited quantities when it's made at all by MTH, and once these sell out, they're sold out. Like, I don't think there are any hobby stores that have these left in stock, and they only came in at the beginning of August. But it's real local, and I've seen this locomotive in real life, which is a nice added touch. Next up, we have a Lionel TMCC S2. This is probably the heaviest locomotive I have in my collection. Not the biggest, but it's the heaviest. There's not a single piece of plastic on this model, which is amazing by modern day O-scale standards. It's got an amazing horn, bell, some sound features, but I haven't been able to unlock all the sound features because I don't have the TMCC remote. So that's something I need to look at in the near future. But it's a beast. I really need bigger curves to run it, although it's minimum 036. It needs something a little bit bigger. And as I've mentioned before, I had a great-grandfather who worked for the New York and Central. So this is my first scale New York Central locomotive. And it's a real neat piece of the collection, and I need some more New York Central stuff. Now, from a real change of pace from some of the other locomotives that I've shown so far, this is a Lionel Lion Chief E33 rectifier. And it's a great locomotive for what it is. And I picked this up on sale at Train World for less than $130. So $130 for an O-scale locomotive with a command control feature, you can't really beat that. It's got great sounds, a great horn, and I actually have the original post-war version from 1958. That's a beast. This is a beast. This has a lot of pulling power, a lot more than I would think from a starter locomotive, and it's great. I would highly recommend these if you can pick them up, if you don't mind the large handrails on the locomotive. Next up is the workhorse of my fleet, no pun intended, but is my MTH Rail King scale SD45 painted up from the Norfolk Southern. This was my first MTH engine that I bought, and this engine is the reason why I'm such a big MTH fan. Now, almost ironically, this locomotive in real life is now painted up for the Erie and Lackawanna Railroad as a semi-heritage unit. So this locomotive actually doesn't exist in real life anymore. But MTH also came out with a non-powered version of this when the engine was first issued, and I would like to pick up the non-powered version one day if I can track it down. But this locomotive, I've abused it a lot, and it still runs perfect after almost 10 years, and it's amazing. I highly recommend the MTH Rail Kings SD45s. So somehow the first time I recorded this video, I forgot about this engine, and this is my Rail King Imperial SD70 Ace Norfolk Southern New York Central Heritage unit. And it's a great engine. I've beat it to hell, that's for sure, but it still runs like a champ. It smokes great. And I particularly like this one because I'm from New York, so the New York Central. But recently I found out that my great-grandfather actually worked for the New York Central for a period of time. And so that adds another level of appreciation for this model. And I really hope to pick up more Norfolk Southern Heritage units one day. But right now it's just not high on the priority list. And sticking to the Norfolk Southern theme, we have this Lionel dinky switcher, not prototypical at all. This was a gift given out to members of the LCCA ahead of the 2013 convention in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And it's just a fun little switcher. It can only pull a couple of cars, but I don't have a problem with that. I think it's pretty fun. Next up is my K-Line by Lionel SD70 Mac. So this locomotive was originally cataloged by K-Line, but Lionel bought them out before they could produce it. So Lionel built it. It came in a Lionel box, but it has a K-Line serial number, and the inner workings are technically K-Line. And now this engine did have TMCC, but when I got it, a couple of the boards were fried on the inside, and I didn't have the know-how to repair it. And so I turned this into a non-powered unit. If I wanted to, I could return it to a powered unit. But for now, it's just a non-powered unit, and that gives me an excuse to get another Alaska Railroad locomotive so I can double head this. So, but this is a beautiful model. Beautiful. I definitely want to pick up another one of these next time they're on the market. MTH Rail King P42 Amtrak Genesis number 42, saluting our veterans unit, a mouthful. This is the last command control unit I have to show you guys today. This is another fantastic locomotive with a great sound set in it. I wanted this one because it was on sale from a couple of the manufacturers because I guess it wasn't selling all that well. And I actually saw this locomotive in real life pulling the Capital Limited into Washington, D.C. And, if you see a heritage unit in real life, you have to have a model of it. And so that's why I have this model. So it joins the New York and Atlantic switcher from before as one of 3 engines that I have that I've actually seen in real life. So next up we have a 2-pack. It is the Lionel LCCA General and Texas pack. So the first one here is the Texas, and I did a whole story about the history of these 2 models. So I'm gonna link the video to the history about these 2 models and a detailed review of them, because to talk about these models, I couldn't get it in a 30-second clip. So go check out that video. And now to round up the video here, we have some motorized units. The first one is this Union Pacific ballast tamper, and this came from the LCCA convention in 2006. And the only way that you could purchase this locomotive is with the LCCA. You could take a train ride behind the Union Pacific Challenger, and you could purchase this ballast tamper on the train itself, and it was only limited to like 200 ballast tampers that were made and painted like this. So it's one of the rarest pieces in my collection, but it's an amazing piece. I need to do a video on it by itself, but everything there in the front moves, and it's a fantastic model. And now for my trolleys. I love trolleys for absolutely no reason. I guess it's because one of my other great-grandfathers was a trolley operator in Brooklyn. But this first one here is an Atlas Brill trolley painted up for San Diego. And my grandparents, when they lived in San Diego, actually rode this trolley from San Diego into Mexico. So that's fun. I didn't know that when I actually bought it. It came in a starter set. Next up is another LCCA item, this Coney Island and Brooklyn Railroad trolley. Not necessarily prototypical, but, Coney Island, Brooklyn, with that New York connection. I love it. Last up for the Lionel trolleys, this was a recent release. I think it came out December of 2019. It is the Buy War Bonds trolley, and just the patriotic look. That's enough to sell it for me. So I picked that up at Train World, I believe in January of 2020. And last up is my MTH Train World exclusive Brooklyn trolley. And I got this because, as I just stated, my great-grandfather was a trolley operator in Brooklyn. And on the front there, you can kind of see, but it says Brooklyn Trolley Dodger, which is a reference to the Brooklyn Dodgers, now the Los Angeles Dodgers of baseball. Now, although these are all of the trains that I've already shown off on my channel, if you follow me on Instagram, you've gotten a hint and you've seen one of the other engines that I've picked up recently that haven't officially been ran and unveiled on the channel yet. And I have one more locomotive that hasn't been shown off anywhere on my social media. And I have another engine on the way that should be arriving soon. And I plan on doing a massive unboxing video when I get home from school for Thanksgiving, showing off everything that I've picked up the last few months. If you want to get a hint and you want to see some of the stuff that I picked up, go check out my Instagram, rj.trains.